Last month in March, a client called me and told me his Facebook page was locked. His business name was trademarked by a supply company in the exact same industry. We rebranded his entire business in 1 week. New name, new domain, new website, new email, updated his Google business profile, all in 1 week. But that's not the story here. The story is what was underneath that rebrand. The reason the business needed a new identity was the same reason the pipeline was leaking, the same reason the quotes weren't converting after they got sent out, and the same reason he was working harder than the revenue actually showed. He had no standard, no system. And when you don't have those things, you're going to build habits around not having them. Fear becomes your pricing model, avoidance becomes your close process. That's what this video is about. Austin runs a concrete coating company out of Bordertown, New Jersey. Garage floors, flake systems, quartz coatings, good work, solid operator. He came to us in December 2025. He was 22 years old, 8 months into running his epoxy business solo. One part-time installer helping on jobs, though. He was getting leads, he was doing jobs, he was staying busy, and the whole machine was leaking the entire time. There was no sales pipeline. Everything was living in his head. 2 or 3 manual follow-up touches per lead, and then nothing. Going on site for every estimate, whether the lead was qualified or not, sending soft verbal closes to avoid having to handle objections on site, pricing from gut feel, and backing down the moment he felt any resistance. And on our first call, I asked Austin to describe his on-site close process. And he's like, I don't really want to give them a chance to even think about it. That was his strategy. Get in, give them a number, and get out before the objection comes up. The problem is that objections don't disappear when you avoid them. They just show up after the quote when you're no longer in the room. And without a system to handle them, the lead goes quiet and then stays quiet. This is one of the most expensive habits in the epoxy business. And it almost always comes from the exact same place. Fear. Fear that if you slow down and adjust the objection, that you're going to lose the job. But here's the reality. If you're avoiding the objection on site, you're already losing jobs. You're just not seeing it in the data because you don't have the data. The pricing was the same exact story. When I ran the actual numbers with Austin in February, he said it himself. He's like, hey, I started at $6 per square foot, and then I would end up at $5. And that was all fear-based. No floor price, no starting point worth defending. Every quote was a negotiation. He was losing before it ever even started. And then the third problem is just the owner bottleneck in general. Austin was doing everything: installs, admin, quoting, follow-up, scheduling. When he went heads down on a job, everything else stopped. He described a stretch in February where he took a 5-day project and tried to compress it into 2 days, 12 to 16 hours a day. And then when he came up for air, the pipeline was already frozen, leads sitting, quotes not followed up with, the inbox untouched. And he said it himself when we were talking. He's like, man, I frequently talk myself into taking this non-standard work. I know all of the pieces to build this out. It's just fear. He knew the problem. He could name it. He just had no system to break the pattern. And then that's where we came in. We started by building structure around all of that chaos: a real sales pipeline, automated follow-up, a daily schedule built around revenue activity, not just the job and install activity. Quoting integrated with his field management software, so pipeline movement actually happened as he went about doing what he was doing. And then within weeks, the first real data was coming in, and the data confirmed what we already suspected. Follow-up was running, but the human layer on top was not consistent. Leads were moving in and stalling at the quote stage. The pipeline froze every time that he went on one of those jobs that he was booking. The core problem was simple. Austin was running every role in the business at the same time. When he was on a job, the sales seat was empty. That was the rhythm that we needed to break. And by February, the automation was running really cleanly, and we tackled his pricing, not what the market wanted, not what he thought he could get from charging people, what the work actually cost and what he actually needed to make. And then we built him a hard floor price, and then a starting point and a ceiling price that you don't really want to go over as well. And then we made sure that every single job that he was quoting was within that range, no exceptions. And then we introduced a close process built around getting a decision on site, not leaving with a "I'll think about it" from the customer, making sure that he was actually addressing the objection in the room and asking for the commitment before walking out, asking for the deposit. By March 19th, I did a full live audit on Austin's pipeline, and there was $90,000 in active pipeline value that we had collected for the year already. So that was like in the, closing up quarter one. And when I looked at that pipeline and found all of that $90,000 in value that we had, again, amassed over 3 months, I found a lead who had replied okay to a quote. And that reply came in 10 days earlier before I was looking. And nobody had actually seen it inside of the team, inside of his epoxy company. There was a signed contract from March 6th. The client still hadn't paid the deposit 17 days later, and it was still receiving messages asking if he was thinking about the project. A lead in the pipeline since December 31st, 79 days, zero human contact from anybody in the team. And then a technical question from a potential job just sitting there unanswered for 38 days. I personally sent 8 text messages myself that day. I created some call tasks for those highest value open opportunities. And I said what I've said to a lot of contractors who are working hard but not seeing the results. Action match that effort that they're putting in. The problem is that you're not stuck because of your work ethic. You're stuck because of your workflow. 3 days later, that rebrand conversation actually ended up happening. The Facebook page had a third-party admin. The name had a trademark conflict. 2 separate problems with no real clean fix. So him and I talked about it, and we made the call on the spot, just doing a full rebrand. He went with a new name, Raynor Concrete Coatings. That's built on his last name. It's ownable, searchable. There's not going to be any trademark conflict on that. No third-party discrepancy either. And in 1 week, we got that new domain set up, a full website set up, that Google profile set up, a new Google account set up with his email and everything. In 1 week, we got a new domain set up, a full website set up, a new Google email set up. His Google business profile got updated, and we also went through a 6-phase rebrand checklist and got that complete all in 1 week. The longest call of the engagement of me and him working together here that we're going over was actually on March 31st, about 2-3 weeks ago. It was a 3.5-hour call. And on that call, Austin actually showed up different. He showed up sharp. He was tracking his own numbers, asking the right questions, shifting and growing through the process of us working together. We went through real jobs on the pricing calculator that I had built together, like me and him went through that together. And just mid-conversation, he kind of caught himself reverting back to that old pattern of trying to price, essentially incorrectly. And he was trying to figure out how to make a job work at these old prices. And then he named it before I did even. He's like, oh, I just was like going back to how I could try and make this work. I reverted, and that's my old habits. And I just told him, I'm like, look, man, you've grown. We've been working together, and you're just not that guy anymore. You're not charging that low. You're raising your prices. And here's what I want you to take away from Austin's story. He didn't really have a lead problem. He was getting leads from Angie's lists, from referrals, from organic processes. Leads were not the issue. He actually had a standards problem. No pricing floor means that every single quote goes out as a negotiation with nothing to anchor on. No close process means that every single onsite ends in hope instead of cash flow and a decision from the customer. No pipeline means no visibility into what is going on in your business. And no visibility means that you can't actually diagnose anything. And then the fear doesn't go away when you avoid it. It just keeps getting more and more expensive. What changed for Austin wasn't just the systems, it was actually the standard. The pricing tool sitting in front of him on every single quote when he goes out. It's not just a tool, it's actually a rule that he follows. The floor is the floor, and you don't go below that. The revision moment on that March 31st call tells me more about anything than any other metric could. He caught it and he named it and he didn't let it happen. That's a different operator than the one who got on the call in December, like I said. When ads turn on for him, those leads are going to go into a machine with a locked-in pricing floor, a trained close process, automated follow-up on every single quote, and a referral system running, getting referrals and reviews on every single job that he's doing. And we're going to just keep building that review profile on his Google profile. That's the machine that leads are going to come into, not the one from December where everything was kind of chaotic and he only did 1 or 2 follow-ups. And if you're watching this and you see yourself in Austin's story, just hear this. The problem is almost never the leads. It's the system that they go into, the pricing behind the quote, the process at the onsite, the follow-up after the quote walks out the door. That's where money is being lost for most epoxy businesses, no matter what stage, right? Every single month that you leave this alone as well and you don't do anything about it, it's just compounding and compounding. We start every client with a revenue leak audit. It's free. It takes about 15 minutes and it tells you exactly where your pipeline is leaking right now. The link, I'll leave it in the description, but it's also just on a website that is neverstopgrowthoperators.com/leak audit landing page. Again, I'll leave that in the description. If this was useful, go ahead and subscribe to our YouTube page, like the video. I'm putting out real case studies, real numbers, and real systems from the field. No fluff, no guru stuff, just what's working from established epoxy and concrete coating contractors that we work with. And so, yeah, I'll see you on the next one.